Globally, Mr. Speaker, cities such as Hamburg, Oslo, and London are introducing car and diesel-free zones to improve quality of life. The UK, India, France, and other countries are planning a ban on the sale of new petrol and diesel vehicles from 2020. A successful transition will require a public-private partnership in installing necessary infrastructure for electrical charging. Mr. Speaker, Ghana cannot be left behind to become the dumping site for environmentally harmful products. We must be bold in developing policies that embrace these technological shifts. Mr. Speaker, plastic waste continues to be a major challenge in the area of sanitation. To address this, the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, MESTI, is in the process of finalizing a new national plastic waste policy, which will focus on strategies to promote reduction, reuse, and recycling. I urge our industrial sector partners to work with us to come up with alternative eco-friendly products from our natural resources. The integrated e-waste management program has been launched and will, among other things, ensure the management of e-waste in an environmentally sound manner and turn the challenges of e-waste management in Ghana into green business opportunities. The program will lead to the creation of about 20,000 direct jobs through the establishment of a national e-waste recycling facility, associated holding centers in each region, and collection centers in each of the 216 districts. 254 districts. Mr. Speaker, our economic transformation agenda continues to have the private sector at its core, and we have in the past 22 months built the fundamental structures to support the buoyant and flourishing private sector. We have provided a stable macroeconomic environment with interest rates trending down, improved access to credit, with credit to the private sector increasing by 13% compared to 7.9% in September 2017, ensured stability in exchange rates, and stabilized electricity supply, reducing the per kilowatt hour charge to industries by 30%. We resolve to do more to support the private sector. This is in recognition of the fact that a thriving private sector means more jobs opportunities for our youth. With our prudent economic management in order, Mr. Speaker, to ensure an even more stable environment for private sector growth. Mr. Speaker, this government continues to improve the attractiveness of Ghana as an investment destination. And Mr. Speaker, with the assistance of the Business Development Ministry and new credit facilities that we have arranged, there will be at least $100 million of new resources for entrepreneurs and for various programs that the Business Development Ministry would embark on. We are also, Mr. Speaker, in partnership with a number of banks to look at promotion of entrepreneurs in 2019. In 2019, the Ministry of Trade will also prioritize and fast-track the implementation of the Business Regulatory Reform Program, including the legislative and administrative reforms to further improve Ghana's performance in the Doing Business Index. In addition, an online electronic register will be launched in 2019. It will document all business-related laws, regulations, administrative notices, procedures, and fees. This will provide open and transparent access to business regulations in Ghana. We continue to achieve marked success in our investment promotion drive. As of December this year, the Ghana Promotion Investment Center had registered 93% of the targeted businesses for foreign participants. Mr. Speaker, GIPC is well advanced to achieve its target of $5 billion of FDI for 2018 fiscal year. Mr. Speaker, attracting foreign direct investors into our country is critical for growth and regional competitiveness. To make the country more attractive for FDI, government intends to make Ghana a member of the Africa Trade Insurance Agency. This will provide opportunities for investors to benefit from investment trade and political risk insurance when investing in the country. The membership will also lessen the request for sovereign guarantee by some institutional investors from government, as they now have the option to access risk cover from the ATI. Government has approved this initiative, and the membership treaty is before Parliament for ratification. As part of the Compact of Africa, government has secured a grant of $18.4 million from KfW to pay for our shares. Mr. Speaker, our government is also deepening our regional and global trade links and believes increased trade is a means to boost industry and economic growth in Ghana and across the continent. To this end, in March, Ghana signed the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which seeks to create a single market for goods and services in Africa. Mr. Chairman, Parliament ratified this agreement, and Ghana, led by the Minister of Trade and Industry, was the first country, Lord, to ratify this agreement. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, program assists 1,078 micro and small enterprises to access institutional credit, whilst 2,200 training programs were organized for 45,000 MSCs. In 2019, MBSI will complete the construction of 67 business resource centers in various districts across the country. In addition, an in-house business incubator is to be established and 94 business advisory centers upgraded. Mr. Speaker, in 2018, Gratis Foundation continued to execute its mandate of providing training to the youth in various engineering and processing fields. Out of 471 youth, 43 were trained in metal machining, 24 in welding and fabrication, as well as 204 in motor vehicle technology. In addition, 137 students from engineering institutions on attachment were trained with 4 master craftsmen receiving training. In addition, Gratis manufactured 86 agro-processing equipment, including equipment for processing grains and cereals, shea nut, granules, cassava, and oil palm. In addition, Gratis undertook 1,700 repair, maintenance, and spare parts manufacturing activities. Mr. Speaker, a very important part of our modernization of agriculture is to attract some of our youth to go into farming and related agricultural value chain activities. To this end, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture is piloting a Youth in Agriculture program in 7 regions, which involves a nucleus outgrower scheme in rice, maize, and soybean. Through a greenhouse program at Dawenya, government is also creating opportunities for our youth to get into agriculture, whilst also boosting the production and supply of vegetables to reduce imports and provide the opportunities for exports. The program is being expanded to 2 regions, Central and Ashanti region, and will be operational at the end of 2019. Under the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Support Program, 7,000 entrepreneurs were trained. and 1,350 successful entrepreneurs who presented innovative and bankable business plans were provided with financial support. It is expected that each of these entrepreneurs will create a minimum of 2 jobs, totaling at least 2,700 direct jobs. In 2019, another set of 10,000 entrepreneurs will be trained and financial support will be provided to about 2,000 beneficiaries. Microfinance and Small Loan Center, MASLOC. For both 2017 and 2018, the Akufo-Addo government tasked MASLOC to focus more on strengthening the capacity of this important financial services center to manage the funds it controls and disburses, rather than expecting more money to be simply thrown at it. This was mainly informed by the unprofessional and wasteful manner that the center was run before 2017. The center also had a very bad recovery rate that made it unsustainable. We are happy to say that the measures put in place since 2017 are yielding results. The new MASLOC has significantly strengthened its recovery rate to over 85%. Government is fully aware of the strategic role MASLOC can play in extending cheaper, small credit to small businesses in districts nationwide. It is with this in mind that a total of 200 million Ghana cedis, 100 million from GOG, and 100 bank financing that has been arranged will be allocated to the program in 2019. Government is determined, Mr. Speaker, to see MASLOC grow in order to help more and more individuals and groups undertaking small-scale enterprises. But the only way this can be achieved is if we respect the culture of paying back what is borrowed. Mr. Speaker, in our drive towards Ghana Beyond Aid, it is imperative that we significantly increase domestic revenue, raise efficiency in the use of public resources, and protect the public purse from leakages. Responsible citizens. Mr. Speaker, citizenship goes with responsibilities, and as we strive to prepare Ghana Beyond Aid, we need to find innovative ways to widen our tax net and to bring in the huge informal sector. As we as Ghanaians need to engage in a social compact of government whereby we all play a role. A partnership where government makes a commitment to provide the citizenry with basic social interventions and services to improve the livelihood of our people and to educate our youth who are Ghana's future. In exchange, government expects the citizenry to play their part by registering for TIN numbers, paying their taxes, keeping the environment clean, reducing weights, and being their brother's keeper. Mr. Speaker, government will broaden the tax net by simplifying payment of taxes through different routes under the guidance of GRA, including the elimination of paying for government services with cash, requiring that citizens show their TIN before accessing social services like free health care, free secondary school education, and beginning in September of this year. Other services like vehicle licensing and registration, passport services, banking services, as well as mobile money services, giving all persons and entities, regardless of residence status, an opportunity to honor their moral tax obligations that justify their access to public goods. Let us all, Mr. Speaker, give to Caesar what is Caesar's. In 2019, government will focus its revenue mobilization efforts on reforming our revenue institutions, intensifying compliance measures, and broadening the tax network. We will further accompany these with some reliefs in 2019. Tax relief. Review of the income tax ban. Government, in the mid-year review, introduced an additional personal income tax band of 10,000 Ghana cedis and above per month at a rate of 35%. We have listened to the feedback from the public and come to the conclusion that some relief from this tax measure in the middle class is justified. Accordingly, government proposes to review this band to impact monthly income above 20,000 Accordingly, Mr. Speaker,
Order.
Mr. Speaker,
Order.
Mr. Speaker,
Order.
Mr. Speaker, we have listened to feedback from across the aisle and propose, Mr. Speaker, to review the band to impact monthly income above 20,000 cedis and also at a rate of 30%. Mr. Speaker, we will bring the necessary changes to this August House to be legislated. Mr. Speaker, in view of the recent wage increases, wages around minimum wage levels have become partly taxable. In keeping with government commitment to lighten the tax burden of minimum wage earners at the lower levels of the wage ladder, minimum wage will attract no income tax. Mr. Speaker, to simplify the collection, Mr. Speaker, to simplify, Mr. Speaker, to simplify the collection of withholding tax for both small-scale mining operators and tax authorities, the point of collection of the tax will be shifted to the point of export. Mr. Speaker, in the bill to effect the exact details of the new arrangement and the benefits to both small-scale mining operators and the other industry operators will be clearly captured. Reform of revenue institutions. The Ghana Revenue Authority has come a long way from the amalgamation of the three revenue agencies, VAT Service, Internal Revenue Service, and the Customs and Excise Preventive Service, to the unified tax authority we have today. Almost a decade along this journey, it is time to take a closer look at the institution and to retool it for the critical task of mobilizing revenue to finance improvement in the lives of our people. To achieve this, important changes will be made to both the management and personnel of the Ghana Revenue Authority. These interventions will seek to improve the quality of the leadership of GRA and boost the performance, responsiveness, and work ethic of the entire 6,200 GRA workforce. The rigorous performance management tools we have started deploying will be driven to the end. New departments for a modern border control regime, specialized teams for oil and gas, mining, importers and manufacturers, a GRA intelligence unit will all be established. Irregularities and revenue leakages arising out of the dishonest behavior of revenue officers will be addressed frontally. And Mr. Speaker, government will make it a regular practice to prosecute offending revenue officers for criminal collusion with unscrupulous taxpayers. In this, we will be resolute. Mr. Speaker, Government will deploy similar strategies towards the National Lotteries Authority. For a long time, NLA has underperformed its potential. The reforms of lotteries in Ghana that started more than a decade have not yielded the expected outcomes. There's a need for reawakening. As a start, we have initiated steps for a full and comprehensive technical audit of the NLA. Once this has been completed, government will pursue changes similar to what has been mentioned in respect of GRA for both management and personnel of the National Lotteries Authority. In this again, we will be resolute. Intensify tax compliance. Mr. Speaker, tax evasion is a crime. Deliberate undervaluation of import values, the ex-warehousing of imports from the bonded warehouses without prior payment of customs taxes, the suppression of sales, the non-issuance of VAT receipts for registered VAT businesses, the diversions of goods cleared as transit goods into the domestic market, and many other irregularities are all crimes. In 2019, we treat these offenses for what they really are, crimes that must be prosecuted. In respect of tax debt recovery, we have already prepared files to enable us to bring legal action against a number of big tax defaulters. We will use various distress actions to retrieve tax liabilities from taxpayers who have a habit of defaulting on their tax obligations. Mr. Speaker, in this, there will be no sacred cows. Additionally, we will speed up the implementation of various automated systems to reduce human involvement in tax administration. These include electronic devices to deepen VAT penetration, the excise tax stamp policy, the harmonization of the automated systems at our ports of entry, and other key systems, the implementation of which will be intensified in 2019. A key challenge in optimizing mining revenues for the state is the verification, assessment, and collection of what is due the state. In spite of work done to address these challenges, some loopholes, escape hatches, implementation weaknesses, and administrative lapses still exist. Government will intensify measures to address these challenges in the short to medium term. Mr. Speaker, some of our trading partners receive as much as $5 billion of trade of gold receipts, and we register about 47% less at our ports of exit. This will come to an end. Additional measures will be aggressively deployed to enforce existing legislation and regulation. The strategies to be adopted will be most intensive in the following areas: ensuring greater scrutiny of the quantity and quality of minerals produced in Ghana as the basis of revenue determination and export valuation, curbing base erosion as a source of systemic undervaluation of royalties and profits, tightening the regime that governs foreign exchange repatriation through the Bank of Ghana, capitalizing tax expenditures, exemptions, and recognizing them as additional government equity holdings in mining companies, and revitalizing the Interagency Technical Committee on Mining. Mr. Speaker, broadening the tax network. The need to broaden the tax base has never been lost on us as a country. Some efforts have been made even under previous administrations, but too many individuals and businesses still operate outside the tax net. This challenge calls for more creative strategies and new approaches to achieve the needed results. In 2009, we will do the following. Tax identification number. Mr. Speaker, in 2019, we will do the following. Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, the Revenue Administration Act 2016 lists many services and transactions that cannot be assessed by individuals without TINs. Unfortunately, compliance with these requirements have been low. In 2019, we will begin to apply sanctions to state and private entities that fail to enforce these 10 requirements. Additionally, government, in providing social services and benefits provided by the state, will require beneficiaries or their guardians to have a TIN. This will complement the current efforts by GRA to get more persons and businesses on this radar. Use of third-party data. Mr. Speaker, the National Identification Scheme, when fully deployed, will provide government with a database to help with revenue administration. But even before that, and to add to the benefits from the NIA, we will in 2019 make use of third-party data sitting in various databases in both private and public sector for tax administration. The DVLA, the Lands Registry, the courts, the financial institutions, the law enforcement agencies, SNIT, to mention a few, are all repositories of useful tax data. We will use these databases to rope most persons into the tax net and tax them accordingly. Mr. Speaker, in 2019, the central government will partner MMDAs to enhance revenue mobilized at the local government level. This partnership will be in the following areas: property registration and property data management, the use of a simplified, inexpensive tool for property valuation, the setting up of a system for the generation and distribution of bills, and the setting up of a system for the efficient collection of property rates and other rates. In addition, the Ministry of Finance will strengthen its oversight over public revenue management in our MMDAs. An electronic payment platform will be put in place to automate the collection and administration of revenues in all local government entities and to give central government a comprehensive view of the finances of MMDA. Mr. Speaker, improved governance of internally generated funds of ministries, department agencies, and all statutory constitutional bodies is still top of government priority. As provided for in the new fees and charges bill that will be placed before Parliament before close of the year, the fees and charges of all MMDAs and regulators will come under greater scrutiny of central government. At the moment, some MDAs receive their fees and charges through commercial bank that lodge these revenues in full at BOG. The Bank of Ghana then transfers the appropriate amounts to the relevant MDAs. In 2019, government will expand this arrangement to all fees and charges on behalf of the MDAs. Government's digitization and cashless initiative continues. All government entities will be able to receive electronic payments by the end of Q2 next year. This is a precursor to all government entities making government payments electronically on the journey to the government going cashless. This will greatly increase transparency and efficiency of cash flows to and from government and better aid cash management of all government entities. Deployment of the Nation Builders Corps. Mr. Speaker, the implementation of many of the interventions mentioned above will require more energetic hands. As part of our strategy to enhance revenue mobilization, GRA has been assigned, Mr. Speaker, 10,000 officers from NABCO, in addition to their 6,200 workers, who will be deployed to support the implementation of these measures and strategies. In particular, they will be helpful in identifying and registering potential taxpayers, collection of quadratic rates, and follow-up on debtors. The young men and women of NABCO will, in the process, become a pool of officers from whom government could recruit substantive officers to support revenue mobilization. Mr. Speaker, the numbers on tax exemption in Ghana's economy are disturbing. In the last 8 years, tax exemption, import duty, import VAT, import NHIL, and domestic tax in the economy have grown from 392 million Ghana cedis, 0.9% of GDP in 2010, to 5.3 billion Ghana cedis, 2.6% of GDP in 2007. it is important to indicate that these figures do not include exemptions from the payment of corporate and individual income taxes, concessions on tax rates, petroleum tax reliefs, custom tax exemptions enjoyed by diplomatic missions, and processing charge exemptions at the port. Over the same period, about 6 different studies have been conducted in Ghana's tax exemption review regime by the Revenue Policy Division of the Ministry of Finance, the IMF, Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, GIZ, and the World Bank. All these studies have concluded that 1, the growth in Ghana's tax exemptions and relief is unsustainable, and 2, the benefits Ghana's economy gets from these exemptions and relief are doubtful. Worse still, Mr. Speaker, tax exemptions in Ghana have invariably provided the opportunity for abuse. But even without the irregularities, the exemptions in themselves deny the country of much needed revenue, resulting in low revenue collection and reporting. These cannot be allowed to continue, which is why we have committed to reform the tax exemptions regime. The draft policy has been completed and will be presented to Cabinet and Parliament during 2019 to be passed into law. Mr. Speaker, in 2019, in accordance with the Earmark Funds Capping and Realignment Act 2017, Act 947, the Ministry of Finance will review all our earmark funds and update them to bring them in line with our current economic realities and priorities. Mr. Speaker, extensive stakeholder consultations on the draft regulations for the Public Financial Management Act 2016, Act 921, are underway. The regulations will include explicit provisions for numerical fiscal rules, and it is expected that regulations will be passed in 2019. The Ghana Integrated Financial Management Information System, GIFMIS, Utilization Expansion Program was pursued in earnest this year. The GIFMIS financial module was expanded to cover 4 statutory fund agencies and has also been deployed to 216 MMDAs. The budget model Hyperion has also been coded to track the SDGs. To improve overall efficiency in payroll management, government has initiated procurement processes to outsource payroll management. Pilot implementation will begin with 1 MDA in 2019. Mr. Speaker, to strengthen cash and treasury management, government is in the process of designing a cash management solution that will provide an automated cash flow forecasting model to assist MDAs and MNDAs in forecasting their cash requirement and broadening government's utilization of the Treasury single account. A key priority of His Excellency the President is to protect the public purse by, among others, enforcing resolute efficiency in expenditure of public resources. To this end, government has recently released guidelines regulating board allowances for state enterprises and agencies. The guidelines eliminate monthly allowances for board members and provide caps on certain allowances. Mr. Speaker, under the leadership of the Office of the Vice President and the Office of the Senior Minister, and in consultation with the relevant professional institutions, the Office has produced standardized designs and costs of various public infrastructure projects in health, such as CHIPS compounds, polyclinics, district hospitals, and regional hospitals. In education, such as school classrooms, dormitories, and science laboratories, as well as in roads. The standardized designs and costs will guide procurement of contractors for the delivery of these categories of infrastructure in order to ensure value for money. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, in 2019, the Ministry of Finance will operationalize an information and efficiency and innovations unit to lead an effort in government to introduce efficiencies and control costs in important cost drivers, including standardization, centralization of vehicle and IT procurement, travel expenditure, and allowances to public officers. Mr. Speaker, our nation has invested huge amounts of money in state-owned enterprise. but we have not been reaping benefits commensurate with our investment, due mainly to inefficiencies and weak governance in the sector. To frontally turn around the situation, government, after a comprehensive study of the sector, will soon present to this August House a draft bill to address the problems in the sector. Fighting corruption. Mr. Speaker, in line with government's promise to protect the public purse, His Excellency the President remains committed to the fight against corruption. The Special Prosecutor's Office, which is established under the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act 201-2017, Act 959, is one of the highest priorities of government. In this budget, the Special Prosecutor's Office has been allocated an amount of 180 million from GOG with a commitment to provide additional resources during the course of 2019 to enable the Special Prosecutor's Office to carry out this mandate. The LI will also, Mr. Speaker, be laid and pass. Mr. Speaker, as I noted in the mid-year fiscal policy review statement to this House, there is a need to restructure and strengthen the internal audit function in the public sector to play its expected role in ensuring effective risk management control and improvements in governance processes in the public sector. The Ministry of Finance is currently supporting internal audit agency to conduct extensive stakeholder consultations as part of the key processes that will lead to restructuring the internal audit agency. This will help to align the activities of internal audit to national objectives.
Honorable members, background noise.
Mr. Speaker, government seeks the approval of Parliament to maintain the cap on the Ghana Civilization Fund at $300 million in line with Section 23(3) of the PRMA to continue with the liability management strategy. Securitization of GET Fund. Cabinet has given its no objection for GET Fund to secure up to 1.5 billion long-term financing, and same has been laid in Parliament. The amount to be used for critical education infrastructure on the back of a portion of VAT receivers' rolls as prescribed in Act 581 and will be issued in 3 tranches of $500 million. Mr. Speaker, government is committed to its objective to borrow at least cost and at the minimum prudent level of risk. Consistent with this, government intends to issue sovereign bonds Government will explore the possibility of issuing one or a combination of the following bonds based on market conditions: Euro bonds and green bonds. Mr. Speaker, the Century Bond. Ghana announced its intention to issue longer-dated sovereign bonds this year as part of our bilateral engagement with other countries. Our phase of massive economic transformation requires a more ambitious financing arrangement and the capacity to retire about half of the country's existing debt, which were issued during a high interest rate environment during the previous administration. The decision to raise these ultra-long-term bonds is not intended to derail our debt sustainability path, but rather to enhance it. If we really want to uplift ourselves out of this hand-to-mouth existence and put our country, Ghana, on a firm trajectory of growth and prosperity, we will need to source long-term, affordable financing to invest in strategic infrastructure over the long to medium term. We shall issue sovereign bonds of longer tenure, either as green bonds or Euro bonds on international capital markets, as structure, a sovereign century bond for our bilateral investor partners. The sovereign century bonds shall engage on a bilateral basis to raise long-term concessional funding to underwrite our other commercial infrastructure needs through GIF, GUIDEC, PPP projects, and other entities, as well as liability management. We inherited, Mr. Speaker, some 122 billion cedis worth of debt at very high interest rates. Even though we have brought down interest rates considerably, we are still saddled with a sizable amount of expensive debts. As such, in 2019, we will spend over 16 billion of our revenue, 26.6%, on interest payments. This amount can be considerably reduced if we refinance our debt at much lower interest rates. A 10% reduction in interest rates translates into over 1.6 billion in savings, almost enough to pay for free SHS in 2019. Mr. Speaker, the Ghana Century Bond Program will help provide us with the wherewithal to refinance these expensive liabilities. It is an important bulwark for Ghana's post-IMF status. It indicates a country with a long-term plan, a country that can program its infrastructure needs over the long term, a country that can provision for adequate foreign exchange reserves in the long term.